If you're a PHP developer and you absolutely love building with Laravel, but you kind of feel the drag of dealing with modern JavaScript front ends, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to talk about Laravel Livewire, a piece of tech that promises to bring the joy back to web development by making the whole process way simpler.
So does this whole scenario sound familiar to you? You've just built this amazing, solid back-end API in PHP. And now you have to completely switch gears. You have to jump into a whole different world, build a separate front end, wrestle with things like state management, and then pray that these two separate applications talk to each other without any issues. Honestly, it can be a massive headache.
And that's really the heart of the problem with so much of modern web development, isn't it? We've sort of created this huge divide, a chasm, really, between the server side, our PHP world, and the client side, the JavaScript world. It often feels less like building one app and more like you're building two completely separate ones that just happen to be connected.
And this slide right here, this just says it all. Look at the contrast. On the left, you've got the typical stack. Write your PHP API, switch your brain over to write a JavaScript front end, and then spend your time managing state between them. But then you look at the right, the Livewire stack. It's almost, it's laughably simple. Just write your PHP and Blade. That's it. This isn't just a small change, it's a radical simplification of the whole process.
So how do we actually get on that simpler path? Well, this is where Livewire steps onto the stage. You should think of it less as just another tool and more as a totally different philosophy for building things, a way to create those dynamic interfaces all from inside the Laravel ecosystem that you already know and probably love. So let's break down exactly what that means. Okay, at its very core, Livewire is a full-stack framework. And that's the key phrase right there, full stack. It's built from the ground up to let you create those rich, interactive experiences that users expect nowadays. Things like search results that appear as you type, or forms that validate in real time, but you get to do it all without ever having to leave the comfort of your PHP code.
And this quote, it gets right to the heart of its incredible promise. No JavaScript required. Just let that sink in for a second. For any developer who loves working in PHP and Laravel, that is a huge statement. It means you can pour all of your energy, all of your expertise into one language and one framework and still produce a cutting-edge, modern user experience.
All right, so I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds a little too good to be true, right? No JavaScript? How on earth is that even possible? Well, it's not actually magic, of course. It's just some really clever engineering. So let's take a quick peek under the hood and see how Livewire actually pulls this off. It really all boils down to this simple, super elegant loop. First, a user does something on the page. They click a button, they type into a search box, whatever. Livewire automatically catches that action and sends a tiny, lightning-fast request back to your server. Your PHP code runs, the component re-renders itself, and then, and this is the really clever part, Livewire sends back only the little bit of HTML that changed and intelligently swaps it out on the page. So you get that snappy, single-page app feel, but all of your logic, all your code, stays in one place, your PHP class. Okay, theory is great, but let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. We'll use a classic example, a form for creating a new post. What we want is to type a title and have the page react to it instantly, maybe with some validation, all in real time.
So what does the code look like? Well, it starts right here, inside your Livewire component, which, by the way, is just a plain old PHP class. You just define a public property. In this case, we'll call it $title. And just like that, this one line of code becomes the single source of truth for our input field, and it's living right there on the server.
Then, you pop over to your standard Laravel Blade file. You have a completely normal HTML input tag, but you add this one special little attribute, wire.model:_title. That's it. That's the magic link. That one little directive tells Livewire, hey, I want you to create a seamless, two-way connection between what the user types in this box and that $title property back in my PHP class. And boom, here's the result. As the user types, Livewire is in the background, constantly and automatically syncing that data back to the server. So you can run validation rules in your PHP class, and if there's an error, the message just appears on the front end instantly. You've just built a modern, reactive, beautiful UI component, and you didn't write a single line of custom JavaScript to do it. So when you take a step back and really think about it, this is so much more than just a cool trick. It represents a fundamentally different way to build for the web, and for a lot of us, a much more streamlined way. So what does this actually mean for you, for me, for us as developers day to day?
Well, it means you build faster, for one. You're writing way less code because you're not trying to manage two totally separate code bases. You get to stay in one context, PHP and Laravel, which dramatically reduces that mental load of constantly switching between languages and frameworks. For a lot of projects, you can just eliminate the need for those big JavaScript frameworks entirely. And honestly, for a lot of people, this brings back that simple joy of building that sometimes gets lost in all the complexity.
And I think this quote from the source material just sums up the whole philosophy perfectly. This isn't about being anti-JavaScript, not at all. It's about taking the efficiency and the joy that already exists in the Laravel world and just pushing it to the absolute max. It's about making hard things easy again. Which, of course, leaves us with a really fascinating question to ponder. For a huge number of applications, could this server-driven approach actually be the future? Is the radical simplification that tools like Livewire offer the real path forward for building better, more maintainable apps for the web? It's a pretty powerful idea to think about. Thanks so much for diving into this with me.